Hi everybody, I'm meteorologist Matt Lenz and welcome to another video blog here on WKTV.com. You can read the entry above and you see that we're talking about some chilly temperatures here as we go into a Wednesday night and Thursday morning. In fact, we are going to be tossing around the F word, frost, here as we go into tomorrow night. That certainly looks like the most significant story. The map behind me here shows cold temperatures. It shows basically nighttime lows from Tuesday morning here. And we're focused in on Canada. Here's Hudson Bay. New York State is probably right down just below the bottom of this window. And you can see overnight lows pretty widespread in the 30s here across parts of Canada and down towards southern Canada especially. You can see a couple of 30s here. That's what's going to be rolling over us as we go into Wednesday night and Thursday morning, and that's why we think we're going to be talking about some patchy frost out there across parts of the area. At this point, we do think temperatures will be in the upper 20s in parts of the Adirondacks, the interior Adirondacks. The typical cold spots like Old Forge should get down into at least the upper 20s, maybe even some middle 20s thrown in for good measure. Elsewhere in the Adirondacks, the other areas, not the typically cold ones, but still within the Adirondacks, will probably see temperatures no warmer than about the upper 20s to lower 30s. As we go into the Mohawk Valley, we do expect a significant shift into 35 to 40 degree range. And then other parts of the area, parts of the North Country, maybe some of the sheltered valleys down to the south, probably talking about temperatures in the low to mid 30s. What we think is going to be the case right now, no frost in the Mohawk Valley, significant frost within the Adirondacks, perhaps a killing frost, in fact, to end the growing season, and then patchy frost, questions on exactly the extent of it for parts of the elevated valleys and sheltered locations to the south of Utica, as well as parts of the North Country as well. Certainly something that we're going to be watching very closely. We'll keep you posted on this and we'll let you know about any frost advisories as we get a little bit closer. Let's focus now on to Ike in the tropics. Ike is our only remaining named storm out there right now. Things have quieted down. Ike traveled across Cuba, went from the south across the north now, and is just reemerging on the north shore or off the north shore of Cuba. Right now you can see parts of South Florida right here. Let's actually take you in a little bit closer to Ike here and show you what's been happening, because I want you to notice something. Ike held together its structure very, very well. It was weakened by land. It was downgraded to a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 75 miles an hour. But it really held its physical components together well. There was no shear. There was nothing to disrupt it. So the core of the storm, even though it weakened, certainly held tight. And notice what's happening. As the center of Ike emerges over this warmer water, notice how the cloud tops rapidly cool. The brighter colors indicate colder clouds. The bright purples indicate very cold cloud tops. The colder your cloud tops are, the stronger your thunderstorms are. And this is just exploding out over the north shore of Cuba, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, because as this travels across, it hasn't even touched the warmest water yet. So this thing really has the potential to really go off as it moves across parts of the Gulf. Let's track this for you. The National Hurricane Center tracked from 5 o'clock. A new advisory will be down 11 o'clock here Tuesday evening. We'll have that for you on News Channel 2 at 11. Notice it strengthens Ike into a Category 3. The big thing with the track, the take-home message with this, is the abrupt turn to the north here. This was not seen on the computer models yesterday. This was hinted at a little bit, but none of the official track forecasts had it quite like this. They continued it moving into Texas. Well, this one really makes that right hook to the north across North Texas, and that's problematic, because as we take a look at the computer model forecast tracks for Ike, you'll be able to see what happens here as we move forward in time. Again, each one of these lines individually represents a computer model forecast. Does not mean that it's going to happen. It's just tracking the center of Ike. And notice they all make that right turn, but notice that it makes that right turn very close to the coast. So this is a big deal, because if this were to continue on its west-northwesterly course as expected, it goes into Texas, then it turns right. Obviously, not a big deal. It's already made landfall. It just means that rain gets spread up to the north and east a little bit faster. But look at the way Texas's coastline is kind of structured here, how it bends right there as you get north of about Corpus Christi or so. Notice if you have a hurricane that continues on this track to about this point and then says, okay, I'm going to make that right turn now, well then you've just made about a 40, 50, 60-mile difference in landfall on the coastline because it made that right turn a little bit early. If it makes it a little bit earlier than that, well then, look, Houston and Galveston come into play for the exact track of the center of Ike. That's going to be important, and that's going to really wreak havoc with landfall forecasts and exactly where Ike ends up going. Pretty much anybody from about western Louisiana still down to Mexico is in play at this point with Ike. You saw that cone of error. It is very wide on the National Hurricane Center track. So everybody's up for grabs at this point. And again, obviously, where it makes landfall, it doesn't necessarily make all the difference in the world, but it does have significant impacts. If this comes in coming in sort of at an angle to the coast, that's one thing. But if the storm decides it's going to turn, comes in at a right angle to the coast, almost exactly perpendicular here, 90 degrees, that's not good. So that's something that we need to consider and something that forecasters there will need to consider. Again, regarding the intensity, here's a look at the oceanic heat content, which estimates depth of water, how warm it is, in conditions that would be conducive to development, comes up with an index here, and you can see the oranges indicate the best heat content of this water. Ike just reemerging off the north coast of Cuba, continuing on this path, will pass along this area of high heat content. It'll pass along this area of high heat content, and even though this is blue out here, that's still pretty decent conditions for development. Ike is going to explode, probably into a Category 3, almost certainly into a Category 3. I would almost venture to say this is almost guaranteed to be a 4, and there's a good chance that Ike may surprise people and strengthen into a Category 5 in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico when all is said and done here. It doesn't mean it's going to make landfall as that. It looks like it would make landfall a little bit weaker, but it is something to consider. And you can see if you were to track Ike along, all these ocean temperatures, Gulf of Mexico temperatures, are very, very warm. Heat content's one way to look at it. Ocean temperatures, another way to look at it. Ike's path is going to be very interesting, because it is going to be traveling over some very warm water, another typical Gulf storm that we have to watch that could be rather serious here for somebody. We'll keep you posted on this. Hopefully we'll know a little bit more tomorrow. The trends earlier today were to take it south toward the Brownsville, Texas area near the Mexico border. And now with that right turn, well, that certainly brings just about everybody else into play, and there's a lot that can change between now and when this storm makes landfall, probably later Friday and into Saturday. Ike may eventually impact us with some rain here Sunday night into Monday, which is something that we're going to be watching as well. It's going to be racing through if it does, so it's not going to be a long period of rain, but certainly something that we have to watch. We'll keep you posted on that. Feel free to post your comments or questions in the comments section just below this blog entry. Have yourself a good night, a great day, and we'll have more for you tomorrow.